Yesterday the sky changed. Today you feel it. That's the thing about major shifts. The announcement happens in one moment, but the felt reality of what changed arrives the next morning. You wake up on March 21st, and something in the atmosphere of your daily life is different. Not dramatically, not in a way that you could point to and prove to someone who wasn't paying attention, but different in the way that matters most, the way that lives in the body before it lives in the mind. A quality of lightness that wasn't there last week. A sense that the invisible weight that has been pressing down on the momentum of your life has lifted, or is lifting, and that the things that felt impossible to move are beginning, quietly, almost imperceptibly, to move. This is the day after the revolution. And the day after a revolution is in many ways more important than the revolution itself, because the revolution is the shift in conditions, and the day after is when you find out what you're going to do with them. March 21st is that day. Mercury turned direct yesterday. The equinox arrived. The sun moved into Aries, and the new astrological year began. The Pisces new moon from March 19th is still active, still radiating its reset energy into the new cycle that is just barely 2 days old. All of those shifts are real, and they are now the operating conditions of your life. And the question living inside this particular morning, the one that will quietly determine the character of the weeks ahead, is whether you are going to move with what just changed, or whether you are going to wait to see if it's real before you trust it enough to act. Because here is what is true about the day momentum returns after a long period of stagnation. It rewards the people who recognize it early. The ones who feel the shift and move with it before the ordinary hesitations and second-guessing reassert themselves. The ones who don't wait for certainty because they understand that certainty is not what today is offering. What today is offering is momentum, and momentum and certainty are different things, and momentum only rewards you if you're already in motion when it arrives. To feel the full significance of this moment, you have to spend a few minutes genuinely appreciating how long the stagnation has been running. Because if you've been living inside it, inside the retrograde's backward pull, inside the Pisces depth and emotional heaviness, inside the particular quality of nothing quite moving forward that has characterized these past several weeks, it can be difficult to recognize the shift from inside it. The stagnation becomes so familiar that you stop experiencing it as stagnation and start experiencing it as simply how things are, how life is, how forward motion always apparently feels. But think back to what was flowing before the retrograde began. The conversations that had momentum, the decisions that felt clear, the plans that were building energy, the sense of directional certainty about at least some areas of your life. And then the retrograde arrived and something changed. Not catastrophically, not with a dramatic event that you could point to as the moment things stopped. Just a subtle but pervasive quality of stuckness, of more effort required for less result. Of the path that seemed clear becoming slightly foggy, of decisions that should have been straightforward becoming questions you were still asking yourself weeks later. That was the retrograde, and it wasn't arbitrary obstruction, it was purposeful redirection, returning you to the things that needed attention before forward motion could be genuinely useful. But the experience of it was still stuckness, still the particular frustration of energy that wants to move being asked to stay still. Still the accumulation of everything that was waiting, the conversations on hold, the decisions deferred, the plans suspended, the opportunities that arrived at the wrong moment and had to be set aside while the internal work of the retrograde demanded priority. All of that is now released. Yesterday, when Mercury stationed direct and the equinox arrived and the sun entered Aries, the hold on all of those suspended things let go simultaneously. And today, March 21st, the morning after, is when they start moving. Not all at once. Not in an overwhelming cascade that requires you to manage everything simultaneously. But in the particular way that release things move, which is initially quiet and then increasingly clear. A decision that announces itself as obvious when you return to it. A conversation that finds its natural opening. An opportunity that surfaces with a timing that makes sudden, complete sense. A direction that felt muddled becoming, over the course of this single day, something you can actually see clearly enough to walk toward. The thing about Mercury stationing direct that most people don't fully appreciate until they've experienced it a few times is that its effects don't arrive in a press release. They arrive in the texture of ordinary interactions and the quality of your own thinking. The first sign that Mercury has moved direct is usually something subtle, a conversation that goes somewhere instead of going in circles. A piece of information that arrives and actually clarifies instead of adding more confusion. Your own thoughts about a situation you've been circling for weeks suddenly organizing themselves into something coherent enough to act on. Today, pay attention to the quality of your thinking. Specifically, pay attention to the moments when clarity arrives where there has been fog. When an answer surfaces that you've been trying to find for a while. When a thought about a person or a situation or a decision resolves itself into something specific and actionable rather than remaining a blur of considerations. Those moments of arriving clarity are Mercury direct in operation in your actual life. They're the channels reopening, the signal clearing, the communication between your own thoughts, between you and others, between where you are and where you're going, resuming its natural flow after a long period of interference. And when those moments of clarity arrive, the most important thing you can do is act on them before the window closes. Because there is a specific pattern that plays out in the days following Mercury's stationing direct that benefits enormously from recognition. The clarity tends to be freshest and most accessible right at the beginning. In the first few days when the direct motion is new and the signal is strong and the fog has just lifted. Over the following weeks, ordinary life resumes with all its complexity and the clarity becomes harder to hold on to. The decisiveness available right now, in the first days of Mercury direct, is a resource with a peak period. And using it while it's at its peak is what allows the decisions of this new cycle to be made from genuine clarity rather than from the gradual compromise of a clarity that was once available but not taken advantage of. So when the clarity arrives today, and it will arrive in some form around something that has been waiting for it, meet it immediately. Don't file it away for later examination. Don't tell yourself you'll act on it when things are more settled. Things are more settled right now than they have been in weeks. The settling is happening today. You are inside the settling. And the action that clarity demands, taken today while the settling is fresh, is worth more than the same action taken next week when the momentum has had time to redistribute itself into ordinary patterns. The equinox that arrived yesterday brought something that is still very much present in the energy of today, and it is worth naming explicitly because it gives this day a quality that makes it different from the days that will follow. The equinox is the moment of balance, the precise point where the scales of light and dark sit level before they tip. And the day after the equinox carries that tipping quality. The tipping has just happened. The balance point has just passed. And you are now inside the first hours of the tipped scale, the first real day of the tilt toward the returning light, the first day of the outward-facing season that the inward-facing months have been building toward. What this means for you, practically and felt in the body practically, is that the energy available today for external expression, for putting the interior work of the past months into visible external form, is stronger than it has been in a long time. The things you have been holding inside, the insights, the intentions, the clarity slowly built through the honesty of the retrograde period, are ready to move outward, ready to express themselves as words sent and decisions made, and beginnings initiated and directions chosen. And the equinox having just tipped means that the energetic current running through today is specifically supportive of that outward expression in a way that it was not a week ago, or even yesterday before the equinox arrived. Think of it this way. For months, the energy has been pulling inward. The season, the retrograde, the Pisces energy of the new moon, all of it has been drawing you deeper into yourself, into your own interior life, into the honest examination of what is real and what needs attention and what needs to be released before the new cycle can genuinely begin. That inward pull has been doing necessary work, but it has also meant that the outward expression of what the inward journey was producing had to wait. The timing wasn't right for external action. The conditions weren't aligned for it. The forward current wasn't running yet. Today the current changed direction. Today the equinox tipped the scales. Today the outward expression that has been waiting is in its proper season. And the combination of that seasonal shift with Mercury direct and the Sun in Aries creates a day on which almost everything you have been holding in preparation is ready to be released into the world. The Sun entered Aries yesterday, and Aries is now the operating energy of the astrological year. This matters for today in a way that is extremely practical and immediately relevant to the choices available to you in the hours ahead. Because Aries doesn't operate at the pace of planning and careful consideration. It operates at the pace of recognition and response. See the opening, take the opening. Feel the pull, follow the pull. Know what you want, move toward what you want. Not recklessly. Aries is direct, not thoughtless, but without the extended delay that so often converts genuine readiness into perpetual preparation. The Aries energy arriving in your life right now is going to press on the places where you've been hesitating, on the decisions that are ready to be made, on the conversations that are ready to be had, on the beginning that is ready to be initiated. It's going to create a specific kind of impatience, not the frustrated impatience of the retrograde period, but the energized impatience of someone who can see clearly where they want to go and feels the pull of the movement toward it. That impatience is not a problem to be managed. It is the Aries New Year finding its way into your specific circumstances and telling you, in the language of felt urgency, hear this now. The question that Aries asks of you is the simplest and sometimes the most demanding one available. What is the first step? Forget the whole journey for a moment. Forget the full plan and the ultimate outcome and the guarantee of success. What is the first step? The one action available to you today that moves you from where you are toward where you are going, that moves you from the preparation into the beginning, that converts the clarity of the retrograde period into the concrete motion of the new year. That first step is what today is asking for. Not the whole path, just the first step. And the Aries energy running through this day will carry you much further on that first step than you would carry yourself on the same step taken in a month of less directional momentum. The Pisces new moon from 2 days ago is still active. New moons operate across the full cycle they initiate, roughly 4 weeks, and the one from March 19th is only in its first days. The reset it initiated, the emotional fresh start it offered, the deep water clearing of everything the previous cycle accumulated, all of that is still fresh, still resonant, still available. What this means for today is that the combination you are working with is genuinely extraordinary in its layering. The fresh start energy of the Pisces new moon providing the emotional and intuitive depth. The Mercury direct energy providing the clarity and the reopened communication channels. The equinox energy providing the seasonal shift from inward to outward. The Aries energy providing the initiating force and the courage to begin without waiting for perfect conditions. These are not 4 separate influences adding their effects together. They are 4 complementary energies creating something unified, a single, multi-dimensional push toward exactly the kind of beginning that the preceding weeks of difficulty and depth and honest interior work were building toward. A beginning that is grounded in genuine self-knowledge rather than in hope alone. A beginning that has been earned through the honest reckoning of the retrograde period. A beginning that belongs to the version of you that emerged from that reckoning rather than to the version that entered it. That earned beginning is what today, and the days immediately following, are specifically designed to support. And the support being offered right now, in the first days of this extraordinary convergence of fresh starts, is the strongest it will be. The conditions will not be more favorable next week or the week after. They will be different, still good, still useful, still part of the same new cycle. But the specific quality of aligned momentum available right now will have distributed itself across the ordinary complexity of the weeks ahead. The concentration is highest today. Here is what you may be noticing today that you haven't noticed in a while, and that is worth paying close attention to because it is the momentum announcing itself in the language of your ordinary life. Decisions that seemed impossible to land on are becoming easy. The fog that surrounded them during the retrograde period has thinned, and what you can see through the clearing is the obvious answer, the one you probably already knew somewhere below the deliberation. When that kind of clarity arrives today around a decision that has been waiting, don't delay. The clarity has arrived at the right moment. Make the decision. Let it be made. Move on with the freedom that a made decision generates. Conversations that stalled are finding their natural openings again. The person you've been meaning to contact, the message you've been waiting to send, the exchange that was interrupted or delayed or somehow couldn't quite complete itself during the retrograde. The opening for it is returning. When you feel that pull today toward a conversation that has been waiting, follow it. The Mercury direct conditions make this an unusually good time for communication to go somewhere useful. The channels are clear. What was getting lost in translation during the retrograde will find its way through now. Opportunities that seemed to disappear during the past weeks are resurfacing. Things that felt closed are showing cracks of light around their edges. Directions that seemed blocked are becoming navigable. This is the retrograde's suspended material releasing. All of those things that arrived at the wrong moment or couldn't quite move forward during the backward current are now encountering the forward current, and the movement that was prevented then is available now. When these things surface today, and they will, in some form relevant to your specific circumstances, meet them with action rather than with further deliberation. The deliberation season is over. You have been deliberating internally and honestly and with genuine depth throughout the entire retrograde period. You have examined what needed examining. You have been returned to what needed your attention. You have set your intentions from an honest place. You have done the work. Now it's time to let the work express itself as movement. There is a specific kind of resistance that tends to arrive right at the moment when movement returns after a long stagnation, and it is worth naming because if you don't recognize it for what it is, you might mistake it for wisdom when it is actually just habit. The resistance sounds like, let me make sure. Let me be certain before I act. Let me wait until I'm fully ready, until the outcome is more predictable, until the risk feels lower, until I'm more confident. And all of those phrases sound reasonable. They sound like the voice of wisdom and careful discernment. But in the specific context of today, on March 21st, in the first full day of the Aries New Year, with Mercury direct and the equinox fresh and the Pisces new moon still radiating its reset, that voice is something else. It is the voice of the retrograde period that is over, still speaking in the voice of the present. The retrograde trained you to hesitate. Not because hesitation is always wrong. During the retrograde, hesitation was often exactly right. The conditions were not aligned for forward action. The timing was not favorable. The clarity was not available. The retrograde wisdom was, wait, examine, go inward, let the returning things return before you push forward. But that season is over as of yesterday, and the habits of the season that has ended can persist into the season that has begun if you let them. The automatic hesitation that served you during the retrograde can easily slide into the first days of the new cycle and tell you to keep waiting, keep preparing, keep examining. When the examination is complete and the preparation is done, and what is actually needed now is the willingness to begin. Today, when you feel the urge to hesitate on something that is actually clear, notice that urge. Name it, and then ask yourself honestly, is this the wisdom of genuine uncertainty, or is this the habit of a season that has ended? If the answer is the latter, override it with action. Move through the resistance rather than around it. Take the step that the hesitation is asking you to indefinitely defer. Because on the other side of that step is the beginning of everything the past weeks have been preparing you for. The hours and days of this week carry a specific invitation that is worth accepting as consciously and deliberately as you can. The invitation is to be someone who is in motion when the momentum is strong, rather than someone who watches the momentum from a safe distance and plans to enter it when it has become more predictable. Momentum is always most available at its source. The headwaters of a river are the strongest point. The first days of a new cycle, when the directional energy is freshest and most concentrated, before it distributes and dilutes across the weeks ahead. Those days are the headwaters. Today is one of those days. Tomorrow will be another. And the week ahead will offer several more, before the extraordinary quality of this convergence becomes simply the ordinary quality of a new cycle making its way through the months. Use the headwaters. Enter the current now, while it is strong enough to carry you further than your own momentum would. The conversations you initiate this week will carry further than conversations initiated next month. The decisions you make this week will land more clearly and hold more firmly than decisions deferred into later weeks. The beginning you choose to make now, whatever form that beginning takes in the specific context of your own life, will establish itself in the new cycle with a force and a rootedness that beginnings made in less propitious conditions simply cannot match. This is not superstition. This is the simple reality of timing, that some moments are more aligned with particular kinds of action than others, and that recognizing those moments and using them is the practical expression of the kind of awareness that this entire period has been cultivating in you. Think about where you are today in the specific landscape of your own life. After everything the past weeks have surfaced and returned and asked you to honestly examine. After the retrograde's excavation and the Pisces new moon's depth and the honest interior work of the balsamic phase. After the decisions you finally arrived at and the conversations you finally had and the truths you finally stopped avoiding. After all of that, what is actually in front of you today? What is the decision that is ready to be made? What is the conversation that is ready to be had? What is the beginning that is ready to be initiated? What is the first step toward the direction that the entire honesty of this period has been pointing you toward? That first step is available to you today in a way it was not available last week. Not because the external circumstances have changed dramatically, they probably haven't, not yet, but because the conditions have changed. The current is running in the right direction. The channels are clear. The season has turned. And the version of you standing here today, having been through what you've been through over the past weeks, is ready to move in a way that the version who entered the retrograde was not. You are more honest with yourself now, more clear about what actually matters, more aware of the patterns that have been running underneath the surface of your choices, more connected to what you genuinely want and why, beneath the layers of what you've been telling yourself you want and the reasons you've been giving yourself for the choices you've been making. That self-knowledge is the gift of the period that has just ended, and it is the ground from which everything the new cycle can build will grow. Today, let that ground be put to use. Let the honest self-knowledge of the past weeks begin to express itself as action in the world. Let the clarity become a decision. Let the decision become a step. Let the step become the first evidence of the new year taking actual shape in your actual life. March 21st is the day when things begin to move again. The stagnation of the retrograde has lifted. The inward pull of the Pisces season has released into the outward push of Aries. The suspended conversations and delayed decisions and blocked momentum of the past weeks are finding their freedom. And the new cycle, fresh from the Pisces new moon, charged by the equinox, initiated by the sun in Aries, is in its first full day of real operation. This is the day you step into the new year with your feet. Yesterday it began in the sky. Today it begins in your life, in the choices you make and the actions you take and the movements you initiate in the hours that are available to you right now. Stay aware of what shifts today, the conversation that opens, the decision that becomes obvious, the opportunity that surfaces, the pull toward a direction that clarifies. These are not coincidences. They are the new cycle finding its way into your specific circumstances, bringing the aligned momentum of three major cosmic shifts to bear on the actual, particular terrain of your actual, particular life. When you feel the movement return, and you will feel it in some form in this day or the days immediately following, move with it. Don't wait to be more certain. Don't defer for better conditions. Don't hold back for one more confirmation that the timing is actually right. The timing is right. The current is running. The new year is here, and it is in full operation, and it is asking you, with the particular directness of Aries and the particular freshness of a Mercury that has just released its backward hold, and the particular clarity of a morning after a revolution, to simply finally begin. The movement is returning. Feel it. Trust it. Go.